Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast, Advanced English Listening Practice Podcast, topic name is 35 plus tough English words to pronounce with meanings and examples. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are undertaking quite a critical mission, I think, for anyone aiming for true fluency in English. We're going to be dissecting some of those linguistic landmines,
Yeah.
the words that trip up even really proficient English speakers.
Yeah, those tricky ones.
This isn't just about building vocabulary lists. It's really about boosting your clarity, your confidence by tackling these notorious misfires in pronunciation and really understanding the subtle nuances of how to use them.
That is exactly right. We've synthesized, quite a collection of words that pose unique phonetic challenges, spelling challenges too, often because of things like silent letters or unusual stress patterns or sometimes tricky foreign roots that English loves to borrow.
Absolutely.
And for advanced learners, getting these words right, that could be the difference between sounding merely competent and sounding truly authoritative, truly fluent.
Right.
So we're aiming to go deeper than just the definition. We're breaking down the precise pronunciation mechanics, identifying those hidden stress points, and demonstrating some sophisticated usage. So you don't just recognize the word, but you can actually deploy it effectively.
And with confidence?
And with complete confidence, yes, in pretty much any context.
Okay, so our goal for this deep dive is essentially to train both your ear and your speech muscles. We'll give you the phonetic breakdown you need, explore the word's layers of meaning, offer some useful synonyms, always good for expanding your range, and provide specific, relevant examples. We're aiming to transform these former linguistic struggles into your new strengths. So let's begin our exploration. First up, we're focusing on a group of words dealing with identity, agreement, and truth. We're calling this section the language of assertion and authenticity.
Okay, sounds good. This first set, it often challenges speakers because, as I mentioned, silent letters or those unusual, almost counterintuitive stress patterns. English just loves those.
It really does.
Our very first term is exceed. It's pronounced accede.
Accede.
Okay? And if you miss that stress, if you say something like accede, the word just loses all its punch. You absolutely must put the emphasis emphatically on that second syllable, the seed.
Right, accede. Got it. So what does it mean exactly?
Well, accede means to agree, to give consent, or to yield to requests.
Okay, but it's important to note, isn't it, that this isn't quite the same as just saying, yes, I agree. There's more weight here.
Oh, definitely. Significant weight. When you accede, you often imply that you're giving in after some discussion, maybe some resistance, or even quite formal deliberation. It's inherently a more formal or serious verb.
So it carries the weight of a concession.
It really does, yes. Our sources highlight this very well. Think about political or legal maneuvering. For example, after much intense deliberation, the corporation reluctantly acceded to the union's demands.
Right. They didn't just agree. They yielded, maybe against their initial desire.
Exactly. Or conversely, you might read that a government refuses to accede to protesters' requests. That indicates a really firm, unyielding stance. This sharp difference from simple agreement is what makes it such a powerhouse verb, I think.
So synonyms that capture that formality might be things like assent or comply.
Assent, concur, comply. Those work well. They capture that sense of formal agreement or yielding.
Okay. Our second word in this group is alias, pronounced A-Y-L-E is.
A-Y-L-E is.
This is one where the spelling is maybe lightly deceptive for its sound structure. A-Y-L-E is.
It simply means a false or assumed name.
Right. And the term is pretty pervasive, isn't it, across different fields?
Oh, absolutely. In a legal or investigative context, for instance, a suspect might provide an alias when questioned by the police. They're trying to use a false identity, obviously, to evade detection.
But it's not just linked to crime, which I think is a common misunderstanding sometimes.
No, not at all. Many writers or artists use an alias. In a creative context, we often call it a pseudonym, or perhaps a sobriquet.
Like Mark Twain.
It's exactly like Mark Twain, or George Orwell. They use it to maintain privacy, or maybe to separate their personal life from their professional persona. And think about online forums.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere.
Millions use an alias, Jade or Shadowwriter or something, to publish anonymously. The key is that it's a name used in addition to, or sometimes in place of, the official name.
Gotcha. Okay, next is a word that carries, significant moral intensity. Anathema. Pronounced, noth.
Anathema.
Yes.
And if you're struggling with this one, really focus on mastering the stress on that second syllable, nath.
Nath.
And also the articulation of that soft sound. Say it slowly. Nath.
Anath. Okay, it sounds quite strong.
It is. Anathema carries strong moral condemnation. It describes a person or a thing that is utterly detested, something considered accursed or maybe even formally condemned. It's far, far stronger than just saying something is disliked. It describes a deep, almost principled revulsion.
Whoa.
And you can see the scale of this word through its application. You might use it personally, perhaps saying, for many dedicated environmentalists, the idea of reckless consumption is an anathema.
Right, something morally despicable to them.
Exactly. Or, historically, it was used by the church for official condemnation. In more modern formal settings, you might see examples like, the organization viewed corruption and bribery as an anathema to its mission, meaning these practices were fundamentally opposed and condemned, perhaps by law or charter.
So it really captures intense disapproval. Synonyms might be like abomination or bane.
Abomination, bane, those fit very well. They convey that same level of intensity.
Okay. Our last word in this section on truth and identity is apocryphal. Pronounced okay-ruful.
Apocryphal.
And we absolutely must hit that POK stress, right? And ensure the little ru sound in the middle is distinct, not swallowed. POK-ruful.
Yes, exactly. Apocryphal describes something of doubtful authenticity or truth. It's actually a beautifully nuanced word, I think. It indicates that a story is widely circulated, maybe widely believed, but is likely unverified, perhaps exaggerated, or even outright spurious.
Okay, so the classic context is probably historical accounts or folklore, where details get, twisted over time.
Precisely. We often encounter many apocryphal stories surrounding the hero's life, for example. Tales that add flavor but lack any hard evidence.
So what's important for advanced listeners, then, is recognizing the difference between an apocryphal story and, say, just a lie.
That's a crucial distinction. An apocryphal tale isn't necessarily malicious or intended to deceive. It's often just folklore or maybe a rumor that's sort of masquerading as fact. If you hear a friend repeat some strange, unverified historical anecdote, you could immediately categorize it in your head as apocryphal.
Right. Believed, but probably not true. Synonyms might be fictitious or spurious.
Fictitious, spurious, doubtful, unsubstantiated. Those all capture the essence.
Okay, let's shift gears now. We're moving from concepts of truth and identity to concepts of perception and description. Our next category is measuring sound, atmosphere, and emotion.
Right. These words allow us to describe the more intangible qualities, the subtle quality of a sound, the lightness of the air, or perhaps the depths of human temperament.
And we begin here with timbre, pronounced timbre.
Timbre, yes.
This is a word whose French origin completely dictates its pronunciation, which can be really confusing for English speakers who might expect something closer to timber, like wood.
Absolutely. That French influence is key. Timbre describes the unique quality, or you might say the color of a musical sound or a voice. It's the texture of the sound.
So it's what distinguishes, say, a violin from a viola, even if they play the exact same note.
Exactly. The harmonics, the overtone structure, they create a unique timbre. And we apply this to human speech, too. We might say, her voice had a slightly metallic timbre that made it stand out, even across the noisy room.
Okay. And we can use it for instruments interacting with their environment, too.
Yes, definitely. A musician might notice that the piano's timbres seem to warm and deepen in the cathedral's acoustics, meaning the specific tone quality was enhanced by the physical space itself.
So closest synonyms are probably tone or texture.
Tone, texture, perhaps sound quality. But timbre is much more precise, much more specific to that unique sonic fingerprint.
Got it. Now, contrasting that complex sound, the next word describes very light movement. Zephyr. Pronounced Z-E-F-R.
Z-E-F-R. The word itself almost sounds soft, doesn't it?
It does. It means a gentle, mild breeze.
And it's quite poetic. The word comes from the Greek Zephyrus, who was the god of the west wind, known for being soft and pleasant. You'd use zephyr when you really want to describe a delicate, almost imperceptible movement of air.
So you could visualize maybe a soft zephyr rustled the ancient leaves of the oak in the evening. It creates a very calming, picturesque scene.
It immediately elevates the description, doesn't it? Instead of just saying, the wind blew, you might state, the curtains fluttered gently in the zephyr from the open window. It just paints that picture of subtle, light air movement. Very evocative.
Moving from soft air to intense emotion, we have wrath, pronounced wrath.
Wrath.
And we need to emphasize that short A sound, right? Like the A in cat, not a longer A sound that you sometimes hear in error. Wrath.
Correct. That short A is crucial. Wrath means intense anger, fury, or rage.
It sounds quite archaic.
It is. It stems from Old English. And its formal nature means it conveys extreme severity. If you use this word, you're talking about serious, often long-lasting, maybe even divinely inspired anger. The usage is usually formal or perhaps dramatic.
Right. You definitely wouldn't use it if you were just mildly annoyed about something.
Absolutely not. You might fear the impending wrath of his parents after he totaled the car, indicating a punishment far beyond a mere scolding.
And the classical example, of course, is mythology.
Yes. The god's wrath was legendary in the myths, capable of sinking entire fleets. When you hear wrath, you should really think fury or ire, but operating on a grand, perhaps even epic scale.
Okay, finally, in this descriptive group, we have truculent, pronounced tuju hk-ulant.
Turi hk-ulant.
We really need to break down those three distinct syllables, tiriu, lunt, to get the delivery right.
Yes, clear articulation is key there. Truculent means aggressive, hostile, or combative. It describes a disposition where someone isn't just easily angered, but seems actively eager for a fight or an argument.
So it's a powerful adjective for describing someone's demeanor, how they behave.
Very much so. You see this manifest in overtly challenging behavior. For instance, a harsh food critic might make unnecessarily truculent remarks that really shock the audience because of their sheer hostility.
Or someone might become instantly truculent, belligerent, when they're challenged, even politely, on their views.
Exactly. It implies a fiercely defiant nature, often quite unpleasant to deal with. Synonyms could be belligerent, defiant, aggressive.
That sets the stage quite nicely, actually, for our next section. We're shifting focus entirely now to the language of social structure and manipulation.
Okay.
These terms are pretty indispensable for political and social commentary, relating directly to power dynamics and the relationship between different classes or groups in society.
And we'll start with demagogue, pronounced demugog, with the stress squarely on that first syllable, dem.
Demugog. Okay. This term feels very relevant today, but it's critical, right? With roots going way back.
Oh yes, all the way back to ancient Greece. It defines a very specific type of manipulative leadership. A demagogue is a leader who gains power not through, say, rational policy or thoughtful debate,
Right.
but by appealing primarily to raw emotions, popular prejudices, and often fear. They tend to thrive on polarization, stirring up public sentiment, usually against some perceived enemy.
And this is where understanding the word becomes really essential for critical thinking, isn't it?
Absolutely. The demagogue employs inflammatory rhetoric specifically designed to bypass the intellect and just inflame the anger or fear of their base. Our analysis emphasizes that a well-informed populace really needs to be highly wary of this kind of manipulative leadership. Recognizing the signs of a demagogue attempting to substitute rational discussion with emotional fervor is key.
So think rabble-rouser or agitator.
Those are good synonyms, yes. Rabble-rouser, agitator. They capture that sense of stirring up trouble through emotional appeals.
Okay. Moving to a word that's central to sociological and economic discussions, proletariat, pronounced prolenaire.
Lidotary.
That middle section, those syllables, terry, seem complex and often missed. Careful articulation is needed there.
It is tricky. Proletariat. Fundamentally, proletariat refers to the working class, particularly in the classical Marxist sense. These are the laborers who possess no means of production other than their own labor, which they have to sell for wages.
Right, so the usage examples almost always depict the social and economic struggles associated with this class, historically anyway.
Yes, historically, novels might focus on the struggles and eventual uprising of the proletariat. It really emphasizes the concept of low-wage laborers working long, often grueling hours in difficult conditions.
And while the industrial proletariat of the 19th century has obviously evolved, the term still remains essential for discussing economic stratification, right? The relationship between the masses, the laborers, and capital.
Precisely. It's a key concept in social and economic theory.
Okay. Next is sycophant, pronounced sycophant. Clean and sharp on that first syllable.
Sycophant.
Yeah.
Yes. This is a distinctly, and I'd say universally negative term for a certain kind of social climber.
Definitely negative. A sycophant is essentially a flattering follower or a yes man, someone offering insincere praise merely to gain favor or advantage.
Right. They don't offer honest advice. They only tell their superior what they believe that superior wants to hear.
Is there an interesting story behind that word?
Well, the etymology is a bit murky, but fascinating. The term might stem from Greek words meaning fig shower, or perhaps informer on fig exporters. How that relates is debated.
Huh. Strange.
But its modern meaning is strictly about that insincere flattery. It's really a cautionary term. The analysis often warns listeners to beware of those who surround themselves with sycophants, because they effectively cut themselves off from critical feedback and reality.
So if you refuse to be a sycophant just to advance your career, you're refusing to be a flatterer or a toady.
Exactly. Flatterer, toady, yes, man, those capture the essence.
Okay. Our final word in this social analysis section is hierarchy, pronounced hy raki.
HY, Rocky.
We need to ensure that initial hy sound is pronounced clearly, like the start of hi, not he.
Correct.
Okay.
HY, Rocky. Hierarchy describes a system or an organization in which people or groups are ranked one above another according to status or authority. It's essentially a vertical structure of power and order.
And we see this structure basically everywhere, don't we? From the abstract to the very concrete.
Absolutely. In business, you observe the corporate hierarchy, different tiers of managers overseeing various teams. In education, the school's hierarchy defines who holds authority, moving from the principal down through teachers and finally to students.
So understanding the hierarchy in any given system tells you pretty much instantly where power and influence reside.
Precisely. It maps out the lines of authority and control.
Okay, we've moved through social structure. Now let's look at quantity and circumstance. Our fourth category is abundance, burden, and unexpected turns.
Right. Here we're going to tackle two synonyms for excess that really require careful differentiation, plus some terms that define life's essential responsibilities and those inevitable changes.
Good plan. And to address a key pain point for advanced learners, let's introduce surfeit, pronounced S-U-R-fit, and plura, pronounced P-L-E-T-A-R-A, side by side.
Excellent idea. They both mean excess or glut, but their connotations and typical usage are subtly distinct. Let's start with surfeit, S-U-R-fit.
Surfeit.
Okay. This word is often associated with overindulgence, or perhaps an undesirable excess. It frequently implies an unpleasant consequence, sometimes even one that makes you feel a bit sick or overwhelmed.
So it has a slightly negative spin, almost suggesting saturation or too much.
Yes, exactly. A negative feeling often accompanies it. If you attend a huge party, you might later complain about a surfeit of rich, sugary desserts. You feel overstuffed.
Or, in writing, an editor might advise pruning an essay to avoid a surfeit of unnecessary adjectives. The emphasis is on too much a state that probably needs correction or restraint.
Right. Synonyms here might include oversupply, glut, maybe satiety, but often with that negative tinge.
Okay, now plethora, P-L-E-T-H-A-R.
Plethora. This also means a surplus or a large amount, but its connotation is usually more neutral, or it might simply focus on great variety or just a very high number. It actually comes from the Greek word for fullness.
Ah, okay. So you might happily note, perhaps, the new streaming service offers a plethora of entertainment options. Here, plethora just means many or a great variety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have that negative feeling of too much. However, it can still describe difficulties. For example, a business might face a plethora of regulatory challenges this year.
So the key difference is that plethora focuses more on the sheer number or variety, while surfeit often emphasizes the negative, overwhelming feeling of having too much.
That's a very good way to put it. Plethora is often just a lot, maybe even a positive lot. Surfeit is usually too much.
Got it. Okay, moving to responsibility, we have onus, pronounced O-H-ness.
O-H-ness. Simple phonetically, but distinctive, as you say. Onus means burden, duty, or responsibility.
And it carries significant weight, usually dealing with moral or formal obligations, right?
Yes, typically. For instance, in a legal context, you might hear, the onus was on the defendant to prove his claim, not merely rely on speculation. The responsibility, the burden of proof, lies with that individual.
And we use it widely in organizational settings, too.
Oh, yes. Accepting the onus of leadership, for example, means accepting the burden and the accountability that naturally comes with that position. It's a clean, formal way to assign accountability, often implying that failing to act would be a significant lapse.
Okay. Our last word in this section captures those inevitable changes of life. Vicissitude, pronounced V-C-S-E-tude.
Vicissitude.
That stress on the second syllable, S-E-S, is crucial for sounding correct. Vicissitude.
Absolutely. Vicissitude describes a change or a fluctuation, typically one that is unwelcome, difficult, or unexpected. We actually usually use it in the plural form, vicissitudes, to describe the rhythm of changes over time, the ups and downs.
Right, the ups and downs. It feels like a word reserved for significant, often quite grand-scale fluctuation.
It often is. A country might experience many profound vicissitudes over the century. perhaps including war, economic downturns, shifts in governance.
But it can be personal too, yet still serious.
Yes. We might speak of a long friendship surviving the inevitable vicissitudes of time and distance. It's quite an elegant word, I think, for capturing the reality of life's difficult yet common shifts and changes. Synonyms could be fluctuation, shift, change, but vicissitude implies more gravity.
Okay, that makes sense. Now we transition into section 5, focusing on the challenge of figurative and informal speech.
Right. These are words that describe the mechanisms of language itself, how we communicate through things like exaggeration, slang, or even specialized organizational roles.
We begin with a concept that defines so much of our daily communication: hyperbole, pronounced hyperbole.
Hyperbole.
The stress on that second syllable, per, is absolutely paramount for getting this one right. Hyperbole.
It really is. Hyperbole is simply exaggeration used specifically for dramatic or rhetorical effect.
And it's just woven into the fabric of casual speech, isn't it?
Completely. If you say, I have a million things to do today, or I'm starving like 2 minutes after having lunch, you are employing hyperbole. For the advanced listener, understanding hyperbole means recognizing that it should never be taken literally. It's just a tool used purely to intensify feeling or perhaps humor in both casual conversation and sometimes in more dramatic writing.
Okay. Next, we address the rather formidable length of colloquialism, pronounced colloquialism.
Colloquialism. That's a mouthful.
It is. The complexity of those 5 distinct syllables needs to be managed clearly. Aerialism.
Indeed. A colloquialism is basically an informal spoken expression or phrase. Think vernacular or slang that's common in a specific geographic region or maybe a particular culture. It sort of sits on the boundary between standard dictionary English and very casual speech.
And we see the application immediately when we contrast formal writing with conversation, right?
Absolutely. Using contractions like gonna for going to or wanna for want to, those are classic colloquialisms.
So while these expressions are essential for making speech sound friendly and casual, they are generally avoided in, say, formal academic essays or professional reports. Strictly avoided, usually. Mastering a language involves knowing not just the word itself, but also the setting where its use is appropriate, the register.
Good point. Okay, following that, another word that tests pronunciation stamina. Onomatopoeia, pronounced on onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia. Another long one.
Yes. We really have to break this down syllable by syllable. Onomatopoeia.
Right. Onomatopoeia is a word that explicitly imitates or suggests the source of the sound it describes. The term itself describes the concept of a sound word.
So the simple examples are things like buzz, splash, bang.
Exactly. But for an advanced learner, perhaps the fascinating nugget here is how these sound representations can differ across cultures. For instance, a dog barks woof, or maybe ruff in English,
Right.
but might be represented as wan in Japanese or guau in Spanish. This shows that even onomatopoeia is culturally filtered. It provides powerful literary texture in prose and poetry.
And since it describes a concept, a function of words, it's one of the few we've covered that really has no direct synonyms, does it? Not really, no. You just have to describe the concept if you don't use the word itself.
Okay. Our final term in this group is liaison, pronounced liaison.
Liaison.
This one is tricky because of that strong French influence, isn't it? Particularly the initial li sound and that sort of nasalized zun ending.
Yes, the French root lier means to bind or to link. So liaison describes a connection, cooperation, or sometimes the role of a go-between. It's focused entirely on the function of communication, particularly in formal or organizational settings.
Right. So someone might be appointed to act as the liaison between, say, the marketing and technical departments to make sure communication flows smoothly.
Exactly. To ensure both sides understand the other's needs and constraints. Or, alternatively, a diplomat's job requires them to maintain liaison with foreign partners just to keep those diplomatic channels open and functional.
So it's an indispensable term for describing an intermediary or a link?
Precisely. Intermediary, link, contact, connection.
Okay. We're now hitting the section that I think causes the most fear, or maybe just frustration for English learners, when spelling betrays pronunciation.
Ah, yes. The minefield section. These are words where silent or hidden letters completely revolutionize the expected sound structure based on how they look on the page.
And we have to start with the absolute classic, the quintessential English place name challenge, Worcestershire, pronounced Worcestershire.
Tertiaire.
Look at all those letters. R-C-E-S-T-E-R. It's baffling.
It is, and they collapse into just 3 short syllables. Tertiaire.
The phonetic reduction here is extreme. It's fascinating, actually. Many historical English place names underwent a sound change process called elision, where consonants just disappear and vowels reduce down to the schwa sound, that little sound.
So if you can confidently say Worcestershire, you've mastered a significant challenge.
We really have. We typically encounter this word when talking about the county in England, of course, or perhaps more often the famous condiment.
The sauce, yeah. Just remember that when you add a dash of that complex savory sauce to your stew or your Bloody Mary, you're using Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire. Okay, I'll practice that one. Next is yacht, pronounced yacht.
Yacht.
The critical misfire here is that silent yach. If you don't know it's silent, you'll almost certainly try to pronounce it as it looks, like yacht.
Exactly. This word comes to English from Dutch, or possibly Low German, which is why it retains that strange, silent he spelling that an English speaker would normally sound out. Yacht just means a luxurious boat or vessel used primarily for pleasure or sometimes racing.
And its usage is almost always associated with wealth and leisure, isn't it?
Pretty much. For example, the billionaire purchased a new 200-foot private yacht to sail around the Greek islands. Once you accept that the ye is completely silent, the pronunciation becomes very simple. Yacht.
Yacht. Okay. Following that, we have the legal term indite, pronounced in-dy-t.
In-dy-t.
And the silent C is the great deceiver here. It leads so many people to pronounce it in-d-i-c-t.
It does. Indict means to formally charge someone with a crime, and you need to put the stress on dy-t. What's historically interesting, apparently, is that the C was added centuries ago by some overly zealous Latin scholars.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted to connect the word visually to the Latin root dictere, which means to declare or to say, even though the C wasn't pronounced that way in the original Old French word inditer.
So basically ignore the C entirely.
Completely ignore it. You'll hear this term frequently in major legal news reports. The grand jury reviewed the evidence and decided to indict her on 3 counts of fraud. It means to officially accuse or prosecute.
In DYT. Got it. Next, a word vital for learning itself. Mnemonics, pronounced mnemonics.
Mnemonics.
Here the difficulty lies with that silent initial M, which is rooted in its Greek heritage, right?
Yes, exactly. Mnemonics are memory aids or devices used for learning. The word is derived from Mnemosyne, who is the Greek goddess of memory. They are techniques specifically designed for information recall that bypass simple rote memorization.
And the classic example often given to students is ROYGBIV, to remember the colors of the rainbow.
That's the most famous one, yes. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But mnemonics include much more complex tools as well, like creating memory palaces or using rhythmic poems to recall scientific formulas or historical dates.
So many advanced students probably rely heavily on sophisticated mnemonics to manage vast quantities of complex information.
Oh, undoubtedly. They are incredibly useful tools for learning.
Okay. Our final word in this complex spelling versus sound set is phlegm, pronounced phlegm.
Phlegm.
We must note the silent G and that short E vowel sound, like in him. Phlegm. This word also presents a wonderful duality of meaning, doesn't it?
It really does. Medically, of course, phlegm is known as that thick respiratory mucus, like when an illness causes someone to cough up phlegm.
Right. Not pleasant.
Not pleasant at all. But figuratively, phlegm means passionless calm, composure, or a distinct lack of outward emotion. Someone showing phlegm is very stoic.
Okay, so this contrast allows for some sophisticated descriptive use.
It does. While the medical definition is straightforward, the behavioral use is far more intriguing. You might describe a veteran politician, perhaps, who spoke with absolute phlegm and composure, even when pressed aggressively by reporters.
So, remaining completely calm under pressure.
Exactly. The historical connection is to the ancient theory of the 4 humors, where an excess of phlegm in the body was believed to cause a reserved, calm, unemotional temperament, a person who is phlegmatic. So synonyms could be mucus on one hand or composure, calmness on the other.
Fascinating. Okay, let's transition now to our next section, describing places, perfection, and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
This group offers words used to precisely define condition, environment, or quality, allowing us to elevate simple descriptions into something far more insightful.
And we begin with epitome, pronounced E-P-I-H to me.
The stress placement on that second syllable, P-I-H, is absolutely crucial here. I-P-I-H to me.
Okay. And epitome means a perfect example or the embodiment of a particular quality, right? Exactly. It sets the ideal standard. We use it to describe the highest realization of a trait. For example, his courteous behavior was the epitome of professionalism, meaning he demonstrated the perfect example of that behavior.
Or she might be described as the epitome of grace.
Precisely. The Greek root epitomene actually means to cut short, which is why the word originally meant a summary or an abstract. It evolved over time to mean the perfect summary, the ideal representation. So yes, an exemplar or an ideal of that specific characteristic.
That's interesting. Okay, next, a word describing sheer prevalence. Ubiquitous, pronounced ubique.
Ubiquitous.
We need to emphasize that initial U sound, like the word you, and that middle stress on beke, ubiquit.
Correct. Ubiquitous means present everywhere, widespread or omnipresent.
This word feels like it perfectly describes the reality of modern life in many ways.
It really does. We use it frequently for technology, for instance. Mobile phones have become ubiquitous in modern life, found in the hands of nearly every person. It's a much more specific and powerful word than simply saying common or widespread. It really emphasizes that something is universal or pervasive across many different environments.
Right, like coffee shops on every corner in some cities.
Exactly. Or social media among younger generations. It's seemingly everywhere.
Okay. Then there is salubrious, pronounced su-obrisis.
Surabri.
Clear articulation of all four syllables ensures fluency here. Su-alu-obri.
Yes. Salubrious means healthful or beneficial to well-being. It's generally positive.
And it often describes the environment or maybe a habitual action rather than the person themselves.
That's typically how it's used, yes.
Yeah.
People with a chronic illness might decide to move to a more salubrious climate, perhaps near the sea, hoping the fresh air and environment will aid their recovery.
Or we often say that regular long walks in natural parks are a salubrious habit, promoting both physical and mental wellness.
Exactly. It describes the positive, health-giving quality of an external influence or activity. Helpful, beneficial, wholesome would be similar concepts.
Following that, we have rural, pronounced R or eel.
R-R-ul.
We have to acknowledge the difficulty here of the two consecutive R sounds. That poses a significant challenge for many non-native speakers. R, 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 O.
It absolutely does. That R followed immediately by another R-colored vowel is tricky. If you find the double R difficult, practicing the tongue position and maybe using the R coloring technique slowly can help blend the sound smoothly. Rural simply relates to the countryside or rustic life.
It's a foundational descriptive word for geography and lifestyle, obviously.
Yes. We use rural often to contrast lifestyles, noting perhaps the weaker infrastructure or the slower pace of life often found in rural regions compared to the intensity of city life. It is essentially the opposite of urban.
Right. Okay, finally in this section, a word often seen on restaurant menus that confuses many people ordering for the first time. Quinoa, pronounced quinoa.
Quinoa. Yes, that spelling versus pronunciation is completely counterintuitive if you haven't encountered it before. Quinoa looks nothing like quinoa.
Not at all.
Quinoa is a highly nutritious grain crop, technically a pseudo-cereal, rich in protein and fiber, which originated in the Andes region of South America. The quinoa pronunciation is a reflection of the word's origins in the indigenous Quechua language, probably filtered slightly through Spanish on its way to English.
So the moment you master that quinoa pronunciation, the confusion just vanishes.
Pretty much. You can then confidently ask for a salad mixing fresh vegetables and quinoa, or mention that you're cooking quinoa as a high-protein substitute for rice without stumbling over the word.
Quinoa. Good to know. Okay, we've arrived at our final section, synthesis, skill, and practice.
All right, bringing it all together.
This is where we bring together vocabulary related to performance, fortune, morality, and social cohesion, offering some powerful words to conclude our deep dive into advanced application.
And we begin with repertoire, pronounced R-E-H, pertoire.
R-E-H, pertoire. The challenge here is entirely that French origin again, complicating the ending sound, isn't it?
It is. That war ending often gives learners trouble. Repertoire is the range or collection of works, skills, or capabilities that a person or group can perform or utilize.
So it applies directly to skill sets and performance?
Primarily, yes. A singer's repertoire might span jazz, blues, and classical music that defines their range, their capacity. A pianist has a repertoire of pieces they can play.
But we can apply it more broadly, too, like in business strategy.
Absolutely. A seasoned negotiator might be said to have a broad repertoire of arguments and tactics they can deploy effectively in different situations. It describes the accumulated stock of available skills or works.
Okay. Next, a wonderful high-level concept, Serendipity. Pronounced serendipity.
Serendipity. Stressing that third syllable, D-I-P.
Serendipity. It sounds happy.
It usually is. Serendipity is the occurrence and development of events by pure, fortunate accident or happy chance, making desirable discoveries by accident.
Is there an origin story for this one too?
There is, and it's often referenced. It was coined by Horace Walpole in the 18th century, inspired by a Persian fairy tale called The Three Princes of Serendip. Serendip was an old name for Sri Lanka. These princes, the story goes, were always making discoveries by accident and sagacity of things they were not actually in quest of.
So the key here is that serendipity is maybe more than just pure luck. It often implies that the fortunate discovery was made by someone prepared to notice it.
That's a great distinction, yes. It often involved accidental sagacity, the wisdom to recognize the value of an accidental discovery. You might say it was pure serendipity that they met at the cafe, leading to a lifelong partnership, an unplanned, happy coincidence.
And many scientific breakthroughs happen through serendipity, right? Where a researcher accidentally notices an unexpected result in an experiment and has the insight to realize its importance.
Exactly. It's a wonderful concept. Synonyms might be fluke, happy accident, or just plain luck, but serendipity carries that extra nuance of fortunate discovery.
Okay. Then we have decorum, pronounced decorum.
Decorum, with clear emphasis on that second syllable, core.
Decoresh. This relates to sophisticated social conduct, doesn't it? Etiquette.
Precisely. Decorum means proper behavior, good taste, or etiquette that is appropriate to this specific occasion or situation. It's about behaving correctly according to social rules or expectations.
So it's essential to maintain professional decorum even in, say, a tense board meeting, meaning you remain polite and appropriate despite high stress levels.
Exactly. Or, conversely, failure to observe proper decorum at a formal dinner, perhaps by shouting, telling crude jokes, or dressing inappropriately, would suggest a profound lack of manners or social awareness. It's about fitting in appropriately.
Okay. Next is debauch, pronounced D-bo-C-H.
Debo-ch.
This word has a single, clear syllable sound at the end, bo-ch, and it carries dual, highly negative meanings relating to moral or physical excess.
Yes, both meanings are negative. The French root debaucher means to lead astray. Debauch can mean to corrupt morally, to lead someone away from virtue or duty.
Okay, so like corrupting someone's morals.
Yes. Or it can refer to a period of wild, excessive indulgence and revelry, excessive eating, drinking, and other sensual pleasures. A bout of debauchery.
And the two meanings are often linked, presumably.
They can be. We might observe that an unethical leader attempts to debauch public morals with their flagrant disregard for law and ethics. Separately, you might describe a town square after a massive, unrestrained festival looking like a scene of utter debauch, implying both moral corruption and excessive, out-of-control partying. It's a strong negative word.
Definitely. Okay, our final term, and arguably one of the most positive ones on our list today, camaraderie.
Wow.
Pronounced camaraderie.
Camaraderie. That French influence on the final resound is important for getting the articulation right. Camaraderie.
It sounds warm and friendly.
It is. Camaraderie means mutual trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together or share experiences. It's often referred to with the French term esprit de corps, a feeling of fellowship, loyalty, and pride within a group.
So it's a positive feeling that often flourishes under shared difficulty or shared experience.
Very often, yes. There's usually genuine camaraderie among the members of a successful sports team, for example, who have struggled, trained hard, and won together.
Or a shared challenging experience, like maybe a long, arduous hiking trip, could naturally foster camaraderie even between strangers.
Absolutely. It forges strong new friendships based on that mutual respect, shared hardship, and achievement. It's about that positive bond within a group. Fellowship, friendship, companionship.
Wonderful. Well, we have completed our deep dive into this remarkable collection of challenging English words.
We certainly have. And I think the key takeaway for everyone listening, especially when mastering these tricky pronunciations, is that struggle is a completely normal, healthy part of the learning process. Honestly, even native speakers mispronounce many of these terms from time to time.
That's reassuring. So remember the essential strategies for really boosting your fluency. First, dedicate time to listening carefully. Listen to how advanced speakers produce these sounds, and then try mimicking them.
Imitation is key.
Second, always practice breaking down these longer, more complex words into their constituent syllables. That really helps you locate those critical, sometimes hidden, stress points.
Absolutely. Syllable by syllable. And third, repeat them aloud. Not just once silently in your head, but multiple times out loud until the muscle memory starts to take over and the word begins to feel completely natural in your mouth.
Right.
The ultimate goal here isn't some impossible standard of perfection. It's about achieving communication clarity and building your confidence. And remember, every single time you notice and consciously correct a mispronunciation, you are actively refining your speech muscles and significantly accelerating your journey towards fluency.
That journey to fluency is definitely continuous, and we really encourage you to keep training those speech muscles. Keep mimicking advanced speakers. Maybe utilize online pronunciation tools and dictionaries. Keep practicing, stay confident, and most importantly, enjoy your advanced English learning journey.
Well said.
And if you found this deep dive valuable today, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us.